Hi, and welcome to this MRC-TV exclusive. I'm Brittany Hughes. Today what we're talking about is Facebook censorship. This is not anything that is new to a lot of our viewers. Most people are familiar with it. This one centers around a children's book series called Heroes of Liberty. Each book features a conservative icon in American history, from Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, Amy Coney Barrett, and apparently Facebook has decided that this content is disruptive. Why? Well, that's a really good question. So here to talk about it with me is Bethany Mandel, and I'm going to actually have to read this because that's how big and extensive her resume is. She's a conservative columnist, editor, and commentator. She's a contributor at the Deseret News. Her work has been featured everywhere from CNN to Fox News and everywhere in between. She's also a wife and a homeschooling mom of 5, and as if that were not enough to fill up all of her time, she also helped create this awesome book series. Thank you so much, Bethany, for being with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's really nice to chat.
Well, look, I've been following this project since you announced it a few months ago. It's garnered a huge reputation for being just an incredible book series. It's well written, it's informative, it's fact-based, it's got beautiful illustrations. I got to tell you, I haven't ordered any yet. My son is 2, so we're still in like little blue truck territory right now. But plan to, and really excited about it. But apparently Facebook thinks that it's disruptive content, and you've actually come under fire and been the target of censorship. So before we get into that, can you tell maybe our viewers who aren't familiar with this book series a little bit about it and why you felt inspired to help create it in the first place?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a homeschool mom of 5, and the literature, the curriculum that we follow in our homeschool is very literature based. And so I am very familiar with the quality of children's literature right now, and it's not good. I'm working on a separate project that I haven't really announced the details of, but I've been really doing deep dives into how wokeness has infected the children's book industry and just how insidious it is. And it is incredibly insidious is the teaser. You can't get a book published these days by the big publishers unless it has a gender angle. And so one children's book author told me, she writes young adult fiction, so like for teenagers and preteens. She had a story about World War II and just, young girls in World War II. And her agent came back to her and said, I can only sell this if one of your characters is transgender or gay. If you're able to make that change, then come back to me and we can sell your project. And so that's kind of what we're facing in the children's book industry. I wrote a piece years ago now for The Federalist when I was a contributor there about a book that I happened to find in Barnes & Noble about how wonderful North Korea is. It was like a propaganda piece for North Korea. So there's a lot of that kind of content that's published by children's book authors and agencies and everything. And so, when you want to find something that's wholesome, first of all, you can search the used book sections because nothing after 1980 is ever really that wholesome. But if you want to find anything about people that we admire, like Amy Coney Barrett, who, she's fairly new on the scene. You're just out of luck. Thomas Sowell is the same. There's no content like this out there, which is why we thought, this is a huge gaping hole in the marketplace that's not going to be filled by these big publishers. So we should just do it ourselves.
Yeah, well, somebody at Facebook must not be a fan. Because after months of advertising this book series, you posted on Twitter on January 3rd that Facebook had disabled your advertising for these books and locked you out of the account. Now, the account has since been restored, but you were locked out for a good bit, and it was only restored after a lot of pushback. Yeah. What happened and what rationale did they give?
So they didn't give us any rationale. We asked them for information about why they deemed our ads low quality or disruptive content, which was the phrasing that they used, and they wouldn't give us any information. I'm looking down to get the exact statistics. From November 23rd until December 23rd, so for a full month, we ran 68 ads. 95.2% of our advertising budget went towards these ads, and they were ranked average or above average by Facebook's own quality, algorithm. So this is their decision that they decided to turn us off suddenly and without warning in the days leading up to Christmas with no explanation. And when we were, lucky enough to have the contact information of Fox Business, Tyler O'Neill is a reporter there, and he helped us actually cover the launch of our series. And so we contacted him and told him about what happened with Facebook. He wrote a story, and because of that, it garnered a lot of interest on the Hill. And then at that point, when the Hill got interested, Facebook contacted several members of Congress preemptively because they saw that this was turning into a real thing. And Facebook told those members of Congress, we reinstated it, we're all good. But what's funny about it is they didn't actually tell us for another probably 16 hours after they told members of Congress.
Wow. So there's a couple of angles here that I think is really interesting. First being, and this is something a lot of people are familiar with social media censorship, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or another social media platform, and they understand that censorship can take away your voice and that it targets people of a certain viewpoint, but not a lot of people understand or consider the financial aspect of this for a business. When you put this much money behind advertising and then you get banned or you get locked out of your account or they take away your ads, that money isn't returned to you, and then it actually impacts your ability to sell your product and to advertise it. What would this have meant for the company had this not been addressed and Facebook not reversed this decision?
We would have lit most of our advertising budget on fire. And we're a small startup. We don't have money to light on fire at the moment. I look forward to the days that we do, but we're not there yet. So this would have been really catastrophic. And we've been really heartened that over the last 2 days we've sold tens of thousands of books. People have really sort of stepped up and said, we want to support you. And we are, more than that, are interested in your mission, and we share your ideals, and we want to do the same. We want to revolutionize children's literature. And so, it's been really, honestly, very heartening to see how much people have sort of jumped on board in light of this. But, we've sort of got their eyeballs on our product, and it speaks for itself. It's a beautiful product.
So now, one of the things too that I find really interesting is when Facebook, or whether it's Facebook or Twitter, typically it tends to be, the same across both platforms, when they censor someone or they take down someone's account, a lot of times the justification that they use is maybe a little bit more objective, whether you agree with it or not, whether you think they should do it or not. A lot of times the excuse or the justification that they use is that you said something that was factually untrue, whether it's about vaccines or election fraud, that you said something that they have deemed by their fact checkers to be blatantly false information. Here, you are accused of being disruptive or low quality. What do you think that this says, if anything, about the shift in social media censorship from something that, at least on its face, they claim to be fact-based, to something that's clearly very subjective?
Yeah, no, it is very subjective, and that's sort of, this is the problem with having the marketplace of ideas be run in this sort of arbitrary manner, and I don't know what the solution is. Like, I'm not someone who has until this week put a lot of thought into big tech and overreach and censorship, but it's a really chilling thing. I was telling my kids, I have 5 kids age 8 and under, and I was telling them about what happened with our book company this week, and I told them, they kicked off the president of the United States from Facebook and Twitter. And my 8-year-old was like, they have a lot of chutzpah. And I was like, yes, that is the word I would use, chutzpah. And so, there's not that much the average person can do if the president of the United States himself is also out of luck.
Yeah, that's very true. So I know that your account has been reinstated now, and you said they haven't reached out at all to explain their decision, whether it was a mistake or something that somebody made a bad choice and it was reversed by someone higher up. Nothing?
So they finally reached out to me today at 2 p.m. And so their email said, Happy New Year. I wanted to reach out personally to offer our apologies that the ad account linked to the Facebook page Heroes of Liberty was mistakenly disabled. After we realized the error, we reinstated the account and have confirmed that everything is back up and running. And then she offered her contact information if we ever run into issues. So absolutely no fault on our part. It was a mistake. It was an error. They all seem to go in one direction, but that's what she said it was.
getting harder and harder to believe, I gotta say. So one of the things I think that has helped you guys, your Twitter account alone has over 90,000 followers. Many of them are Republican lawmakers. They're prominent conservative voices, some heavy hitters in that arena, which I think definitely helps when you have a story like this. You know who to contact and you have those connections. But someone just average Joe who finds themselves the target of social media censorship, what would you say to them if they find themselves in this position but maybe don't have a Rolodex of people to get that story out? Is there anything that the average person can do to address something like this?
So I love to hate Twitter, but Twitter is a really powerful tool, and that's exactly what I used to get the word about this story. All I did was I wrote a thread and I was contacted, and obviously that's a lot easier when you have a verified account with 90-something thousand followers, including everyone under the sun on the sort of the right. But that being said, I mean, the DMs, the direct messages of most of these sort of reporters and tech people at the Daily Caller, at the Free Beacon, at National Review, it does involve a little bit of sort of research to figure out who the tech reporters are, but in all of their Twitter bios, they always say, DM me for my signal. This is my email address. It's not impossible to get in touch with reporters. And quite honestly, Tyler O'Neill at Fox Business was excited to report about this because it was a big story. And this is the role of journalism, is to report on these stories. And so I would, urge people to get on their computers and reach out to reporters and make them do their jobs, and they want to do their jobs if they're good.
Well, Bethany, I got to tell you, thank you so much for being here. Fantastic book series. I'm really glad that the account was restored, and I hope you guys get back to some normalcy there. Heroes of Liberty, absolutely phenomenal. Gonna order some. I don't care if he's two. I'll wait to read it to him.
Heroesofliberty.com.
Heroesofliberty.com, and this is subscription-based, right? You get a book a month?
So you can, or you can order the books individually. It's totally up to you. I personally recommend the subscription, but to each his own.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bethany. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.